Let's Talk Aging interview is sponsored by the American Cleaning Institute in support of their Packets Up campaign to bring awareness to laundry room safety. As an easy, safe storage reminder, they are providing this free cling to put on your cabinets in your laundry room. Go to www.cleaninginstitute.org/packetsup to order your free cling today. I would love to hear how you keep your laundry room safe for the individuals living with dementia in your life. So please share with us using #PacketsUp in the comments below.
Okay. Hello and welcome back to this week's Let's Talk Aging. My name is Molly Wisniewski of the Upside to Aging, and today I am speaking with Wendy Adlerstein, the Director of Client Care Services for First Light Home Care of West Suburban Boston. Wendy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a social worker. My background is in elder services. I worked at an elder services nonprofit agency for a very long time, doing different roles and responsibilities around case management and supervision. I've also managed volunteer services for seniors, worked in some nonprofit programs, and most recently have been working in our First Light Home Care office here as a co-owner of a home care agency called First Light Home Care of West Suburban Boston.
And aging in place is such a popular choice now, and even a movement. Can you explain the options that are out there?
Yeah, so I think these days it's as people age, and of course there's a huge amount of people aging, as we know. I think the statistics are 10,000 people a day are turning 65 every day now. More and more we're hearing that people want to live at home and they want to age at home. And so the options there are different options, and what people call home can be different as well. Sometimes people will age in a private house that they've had for 50 years, and sometimes people move to a new home. Maybe they downsize or even go to an assisted living, which can also be home, and if necessary, a nursing facility. So I think the term aging in place can mean many different things because it's all about what's right for the person and their situation.
Oh, thank you for defining that. I think that's right. And I love that you mentioned the different types of places as well, because it is a continuum. And,
yes.
It's important to highlight that there are options out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the holidays are coming up, and holidays and family get-togethers are really a great time to assess how mom and dad are doing. So could you offer us some signs to look out for that may be a cause for concern?
Yeah, well, it's true. Like you said, I mean, during the holidays, people tend to get together. Maybe adult children who live far away make plans to go home to visit their parents. And it could be something that they haven't done in a long time. And when they arrive, there may be some surprises that they find when they get to the house. But sometimes it's not obvious things. So if you feel like you want to kind of explore a little more about, what's going on at the home, there are some subtle things to look for. Quite often, just looking around, first of all, the outside of the house. What is the condition of the home? Is it getting a little more run down? Or is the lawn taken care of? Or the gutters cleaned out? Or is it something that that maybe your loved one used to be very on top of, and now it looks like it's not as well maintained from the outside of the house? So that right there could be sort of just something to notice. Then, of course, once you get inside the home, there's little things to look for too. And I think of it as like the five senses. So, the smells, does the place smell clean? Are there any unusual odors going on? Maybe there's rotting food or other things coming from the bathroom, things like that. Laundry, is it piling up in different rooms, that kind of thing. So, kind of using your eyes, ears, sense of smell, and all of those things can really help you kind of determine how things are going at home. I also think just personal hygiene, looking at your loved one and, kind of noticing, do they seem clean? Do their clothes look clean? Does their hair look washed? Is the bathroom, does it look like, the tub has been used recently? Is the soap wet? Does it look like somebody's picked up that bar of soap recently, or is it just sitting there for a long time? So these are like things to look at when you're in the house if you're a little bit concerned about what's going on. Anything having to do with, cleanliness around the home and noticing if bills aren't paid, if the mail is piled up on the dining room table. And I think some of this also comes down to, the person and what they used to be like. So if somebody's always sort of been somebody who piles their mail up on the table, then that's just who they've been all their life. It's more about thinking about what were they like before, and what are you seeing now? Things like that.
Well, can we unpack some of them? Because I think when there's certain ones that might be difficult maybe to discern, just like you were saying, they might have always had their mail packed up high, and
right.
So maybe things. How could somebody recognize mobility problems, for instance, in the home?
Yeah. So if you notice that somebody is having trouble with balance, or even just getting in and out of a chair, mobility is a big issue, and unfortunately leads to falls. And that's one of the biggest things that happens in the home when somebody's not there. It could be that just by noticing that the person's balance is off, and then kind of looking at, well, what are the next steps to address that? Mm-hmm. But safety like that is a big issue. Yeah,
definitely. And you mentioned some of the hygiene problems.
Yeah.
Can you go into that just a little bit more? Because I think that's an important one. I think that's one that can be easily brushed away by stereotype, even if it is your own parent. So
yeah,
maybe what are some outward signs that family members can look to?
Yeah, I mean, hygiene is a big one, and there's many reasons why sometimes it's not being addressed. Sometimes it could be something simple like the person is afraid that they're going to fall when they get in the shower. Right. So if that's the reason somebody isn't showering anymore, home care, having somebody come in a couple of times a week to help with the shower, just to make sure the person is safe getting in and out is an option. Mm-hmm. Or maybe looking at some of the safety equipment that is out there. There's tub chairs that people safely can take a shower by sitting down, or handheld showers where it attaches to the faucet and can make it easier instead of having to stand underwater. But if you're looking to, figure out why isn't the showering happening, there's a bunch of reasons that could be. Yeah.
I think that's important to highlight, and I appreciate that, because you're right. Their loved one might not be expressing their fears either, because they don't want people to think that they are going to fall, so they don't even mention the word fall, and it can easily be left unsaid, especially in families.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes family members can't get their loved ones to talk about it. It's easier for an outsider to come in, and then people open up. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And we kind of, you alluded to this as well. There, especially nowadays, families are so far apart, and very rarely are you finding that. Sometimes, but it's difficult. It's becoming increasing more that families are living far apart.
Right.
So one of the main concerns that I hear a lot of people talk about when they're talking about aging in place is the social well-being of the individual living in that home. So even even someone that's living in the home with their partner still, or maybe their partner has passed on, those concerns of social isolation. So, what are some concerns and signs that you have found that families should be looking out for?
Yeah, I think there's so much out there now known about how important it is to have socialization, and that isolation can be very detrimental and sometimes the cause of many illnesses. So it's so important to figure out ways for somebody to have human contact and socialization. So there's lots of different ways to go about that. One thing to begin to look into are senior centers. Every area typically has senior centers, and with lots of programming, usually meals, at least a meal. Someone could go there to have a lunch around people. Activities, trips. Every senior center is different, but usually there's one locally. So that's kind of an easy, low-cost option for people who can get out of the house and start to be around others. If somebody's homebound, quite often people will get Meals on Wheels, just so that someone will come in once a day, have a nice quick conversation, make sure that there's a little bit of eyes checking in on in the home. So that's another form of socialization. Or maybe connecting with a local church or synagogue and getting volunteers to come in for friendly visits, or even a paid companion to come in and provide a little socialization. These are some ways to get connected. Yeah, but it's so important. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And I think accessibility in and out of the tub. I think there's something with isolation too, and getting in and out of the house. So making sure that those home safety modifications are kind of outside of the home as well, so they're getting out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How intertwined it all is. So when you really become a detective, it sounds like.
It's true. Yeah. You have to think a little bit about each step, where somebody's pathway is that they're walking, and where are the stairways and slippery areas and things like that.
Yeah. And so my next question is a little, I guess with the holidays, you're bound to have conversations that are a bit tense, right?
Yeah.
Families, that's what they're for, right?
Right.
So what about driving and safety? It's a big concern, I think, for a lot of family members.
Yeah.
Wondering when to bring that conversation up with mom and dad, that maybe it's not time, maybe it's time for you to give in those keys.
Yeah.
So what are some signs of trouble?
Yeah, I mean, very sensitive topic. And I think that everyone can empathize with the fact that when you've been driving your whole life and it's your form of independence, and you have to stop driving, it's hard to do. And so but I think that as a loved one coming in and again looking around at signs that maybe driving isn't the best option, even just starting by looking at the car itself, to see, are there some scratches on the car? Are there any little dents on the car? Because those are signs that maybe things have already been starting to happen with the driving piece. The other thing would be to get in the car with the person and kind of observe what their driving skills are like. And if you don't feel safe when you're in the car, that might be a sign that maybe, it's time to have that conversation. But I think it's all about how you approach it with the person. Obviously, it's sensitive, and hard to have that conversation.
So with these tips in mind, how can family members kind of bridge that conversation with their loved one?
So one of the things that I think is very important is that there has to be an alternative sort of given to the person, so that it's not just about not driving anymore, that it shows that there are other options of ways for the person to get around. And if you can give the person those resources and teach them other ways ways that they can get places, it's probably a little, less hard to, or at least it gives them choices so that they're not just going from driving to not being able to go out at all. So looking at even just like Uber, there's some great programs out there around similarly with Uber. A lot of the senior centers have programs with drivers and volunteer drivers. Maybe there's ways to get public transportation passes for seniors. Looking at your local resources around transportation, ride shares, so that way that there's some other option that your loved one can start to investigate. And also kind of, getting the person to talk about how they feel they're driving. If maybe the question is asked to them, like, how do you feel, Mom? How do you feel you've been doing lately with driving? It would be interesting to hear what their perspective is and where they're coming from, instead of just coming straight out to them and saying, less accusatory.
They don't know that they have other options to get around, so they don't want to lose the only option that they have to get around.
Well said.
So
yeah.
They're very happy with taking an alternative if it was available to them. So that's a good point. I think that's important to know.
Yeah.
And then also, can you tell us a little bit more about home care? Like, what is it, and what kind of benefits it could provide somebody that is living in their home?
Yeah. So that's like the agency that we have here at First Light, where we have actually employees of ours, and they're companions as well as home health aides and personal care assistants. And part of the job that they'll do is actually go in and drive somebody places. And it doesn't have to be a medical appointment, although it can be. Our caregivers can drive people to anywhere they want to go, whether it be the mall, to a friend's house, to the museum. So there's options for that. But the companions can assist around the house. So if somebody's having more challenges with making meals or cleaning up or doing laundry, the companions and our caregivers can do that as well. That's what home care really provides, that assistance that makes it just a little bit easier, and including assistance with showers, getting in and out of the bathtub or the shower, and those types of things.
That's such a peace of mind. I think that when individuals are kind of faced with this scenario, they don't know what to do, and it feels really overwhelming.
Sure.
So to have options like home care and first care to be able to come into the home, and so if you don't mind, I'm still a little curious. If somebody were, so say over the holidays, they do notice mom and dad are need a bit more support around the home. What process would they take? Do they just call and set up an appointment? Would somebody come out to the home to kind of assess the needs? Because they might not know the full scale.
Right.
What's going on, but they know that something needs to change.
Yeah. No. Well, all home cares are all private home cares are just slightly different, but there's a lot of similarities. I can speak from experience from our agency here, that what we do is anyone can call anytime, and even if it's just to ask a question or looking for a resource. In our agency here, I'm a social worker. I go out to the home. I offer to go out, do an assessment, talk about what's going on, look around the home. If somebody wants to talk about recommendations around safety, that's something we do. And then talk about, what help might be needed. Maybe somebody does want someone to come in a couple of times a week for a little help, or maybe it is more intense and they need 12-hour, overnights because the person's getting up in the middle of the night and they might fall going to the bathroom. So there's all kinds of help, but the process would be to just make that call and learn more and go from there.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it offers some support in that conversation too.
Totally.
For some that might find it more difficult than others, knowing that there's a third party that can kind of assist that conversation on sounds
Right.
really reassuring. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that people don't know where to turn. It's a very overwhelming time when somebody's getting older and people don't know what resources are out there. So
Right.
figuring that out is hard. Yeah.
And the idea that I think the assumption is a nursing home is the first option.
Right.
It's not that anymore.
No.
There's so many more, offerings now before, the nursing home conversation has to begin. I mean, it's always important to have that conversation,
Right.
but to having that awareness that there are still a few steps that we can do to keep mom or dad in home, or aging in place, wherever that may be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I really appreciate your time today. I think that the signs that you've kind of taught us to look out for are going to be really helpful. They're concrete, and I think this is just great information that people really need to know. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.